Hey friends, things are getting real weird out here. First off, the Pope died after a 5 minute meeting with Shady Vance. And I'm not going to say he killed the Pope, but he definitely died of cringe after a 5 minute meeting with old DJ. Um, Pope Francis became the Pope in 2013, and is definitely the most inclusive and progressive Pope we've had in probably forever. He wasn't perfect on LGBT situations, but he did bless some same sex couples and stopped just short of condoning gay marriage. He was against the genocide in Palestine, and he understood climate change and spoke out for poor people and marginalized people. He was the first pope, not from that area. He was the first. He was from Argentina. He was the first pope from South America or the Western world, I guess you could say. He was always humble and selfless. And he definitely reformed a lot of the rituals that go on in the Catholic Church, especially relating to the overblown rituals having to do with the death of a pope, which ironically, he was the first pope to have those things instilled, simplified a lot of the processes, kind of making it he's just a man. He's not a deified figure. He's one of the few popes that's not going to be buried within the Vatican City there. I didn't look into it too much, but he's got a place just a half a mile from there. Um, a lot of people are concerned about who is going to be the next pope. Obviously, I don't know a lot about the church and all of those kind of cardinals and all of that situation, but there's a saying that after a fat pope, a thin one. So hopefully they find someone that's just as progressive or and not somebody that's like a step away from Hitler. That's the last thing we need right now. Um, we need somebody to keep speaking up against all of this oppression in the world, especially with what we're going through here in America. They've always leaned away from anybody from the Anglosphere, so it probably won't be anybody from England or major Europe or America, but we'll see. All the world leaders flew in for the funeral, and except for little impromptu meeting with President Duduhead and Zelensky, there wasn't much incident. I was waiting for all of the cringe things. Of course, Trump acted like a grandpa at Sunday school and dozed off, and just was kind of embarrassing overall, but no major incidents. Next incident, let's go to the Iberian Peninsula and talk about the blackout. 50 million people left without power in Spain and Portugal for about 16 hours. A lot of people are saying there's a lot of conspiracies going around that it was Russian hackers or it was some sort of atmospheric disturbance. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. Some people are trying to blame it on their net zero carbon initiatives. And that's a bunch of crap because there's other countries in Europe that are already net zero. And it's people that just want to fight the idea of fighting climate change, and I think it's great that they're doing that kind of thing. Hopefully, we find out what happened with that eventually. But it's just a little scary because when planes and trains stop and cell service goes down and all electricity goes out, it just really shows us how vulnerable we are and how close we are to total collapse at every moment. Without electricity, we're basically cavemen. And speaking of living like cavemen, we also had Coachella, which I know is more of a pop culture thing, but it kind of fits in this category because it was a shit show this year. Sure, it is every year, but this year was especially enshittified. They call it the enshittification of things. Tickets were upwards of $1,000 and $400 to $800 just to park. And then there was still people posted on social media that it took 12 hours to get into their parking spots. There was 2-hour lines for showers. People were shitting in the bushes. There was no organization. It's in the middle of the desert, so they couldn't do anything about snakes. And but if you didn't want to deal with the 100-degree weather and the 2-hour shower lines, you could pay $10,000 to $15,000 for an air-conditioned tent. And it basically shows that there was two Coachellas now. There's the one for the peasants, where you're still paying thousands of dollars to be there, but you're living in squalor, and the influencer class. Coachella has become about the influencers. They're weaponizing FOMO, and they're calling it status theater because it's just a matter of just being able to say you were there. I went online and tried to find out about some of the performances, and almost none of the social media is about the people that performed, which that should be the foremost thing. It's all about the influencers, and they get paid thousands of dollars to live in these fancy suites and eat sushi and get flown in on private jets and take Escalades right to the front so they can take their little posts and pictures with their cute little outfits, and then they go right back to their air-conditioned conclaves there, and they don't care about the music. Some of those people don't even know what music is played. Brian May came out to play the solo on Bohemian Rhapsody with Benson Boone, and they said it didn't even make a splash because none of those people even knew who he was coming out on stage. And it was a major thing because he just had a stroke sometime last year, and so it's amazing for him to be able to be out on stage playing and showing that he's doing better, and nobody gave a shit past their own influencer costumes. And they said all of the performances were lackluster because the audiences were just so dead. You had Post Malone and Travis Scott and Charlie XCX and Lady Gaga and Green Day, and nobody even gave a shit what they were seeing. Most of them probably weren't even paying attention. But for the artists, it's kind of just the same thing. It's just to be able to say you played at Coachella. That's all that matters. There's going to be clips with social media nowadays that pop up here and there, but all the way back from when it started, it's just a matter of being able to say you played at Coachella. And I think that's something that we need to stop going to, and artists need to stop playing at. It was sad seeing woke musicians like Green Day and Lady Gaga headlining Coachella when Coachella is owned by a guy named Phil Anschutz, who's a wackadoodle billionaire right-wing guy that puts millions of dollars into pro-life, anti-LGBT, and climate denial initiatives. And I think every artist that has a modicum of self-respect should ban Coachella from their whole worldview. Anyway, it's just a quick one. Get some news off my chest, and I'll catch you a little bit later, probably closer to the weekend. I love you all.